Welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how to make this crochet Phoebe Bridgers Stranger in the Alps inspired top. I showed it on TikTok and a lot of people wanted a tutorial, so here it is. I've never made a YouTube video or a crochet tutorial ever, so I hope this isn't too terrible. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say, so without further ado, let's get into the video. So to make the top, I used Big Twist in light green, Big Twist in sky blue, Red Heart Super Saver in patty green, Red Heart Super Saver in white, and Red Heart Super Saver in black. But for the black and the white yarn, you're using such a small amount for this project that there's no need for you to buy this much black and white yarn if you're only buying it for the top. So any black and white worsted weight yarn will do. You don't have to buy Red Heart Super Saver. You can buy less than that. You'll also need some scissors, a 6.5mm crochet hook, a 5mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, and I used a safety pin, but any sort of stitch marker that you have would work. You could use a bobby pin, you can get creative, just anything to like mark a spot on the top. Okay, so first you're gonna make a slip knot. I'm doing it pretty slowly here in case you don't know how to make one. But you're gonna make your slip knot and then get your hook and insert your hook into the loop. And you're gonna make a chain that will wrap around the largest part of your bust. So for reference, I have like a 34 inch bust and I ended up doing 77 chains. Once you have the chains that you need to wrap around your bust, you need to count how many chains you did. And this is important because you're going to be making a graph based on the specific number of chains that you have. So make sure you count. This is me counting. I counted like 5 times just to make sure because it is important. So once you have the right length for your bust, you're going to chain an additional 3 chains, and then you're going to do a double crochet in the 4th chain from your hook. So wrap your yarn, stick it through, pull the yarn through 2 loops, and then pull the yarn through 2 loops. And you're just going to do this the whole way. Once you've reached the end of that row, you are going to just double crochet like normal into that very last stitch. Might be a struggle. And then do a regular little double crochet. You're going to chain 3. Can't even see what I'm doing, I'm sorry. Turn your work. And then you're not going to go into that very first hole. You're going to skip that one and go into the next one. And you're just going to do the regular double crochet thing we've been doing. And you're actually going to do that the whole row. I'm just easing you into it because the next row we are doing color changes, so get ready. But yeah, you're just going to do this for the rest of the row, just like we did for the previous row. And then I'll show you what you need to do at the end of the row because it is a little bit different. At this point, just do a regular double crochet into that last previous row's double crochet, and then you're also going to do a double crochet into the last chain of the previous row's chain 3. So you can see me going into that very last chain and then just doing a regular double crochet, and that's going to be your last double crochet of the row. Every row is going to be like that row that I just showed you, except now we have to do color changes. When you go to the link in the description box, the Stitch Fiddle link, this is where it should take you. This pattern I've made to hopefully be able to be made to any size. As you can see, my cursor right here is on the 77th stitch, and so I have these additional stitches that I've left there in case yours needs to be larger, and if it needs to be smaller, it can be smaller as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy. And you will have to make an account for Stitch Fiddle if you don't have one, but it's free. It's not too difficult. So you're going to go to File, Create a Copy, and then I have an account, so I'm going to sign in, but obviously if you don't have one, you'll just create one there. So here's my title, and I'll hit Next. And now we are working on a copy. So this is something that you can edit and make custom to your size. As you can see towards the top of the screen where I hover over it, you can see like which stitch I'm working on. And I want to be right here. So I'm going to be deleting all the stitches to the left of that 77th stitch. So I'm just going to zoom in and I'm going to start right here. And I'm going to go down to, I right clicked and I'm going to go down to delete column. And basically, I'm just going to sit here right clicking, deleting columns. As you can see, the number is going down because I'm deleting these columns. And I'm going to go all the way to the 77th stitch, which is the length that I needed. Okay, so I've made it to where I have 77 stitches across now. As you can see, it looks kind of weird right here because there's only one stitch there. You want the right side to be able to match up with the left side because you're going to be wrapping these around and connecting this side to this side. In yours, let's say you didn't have that square there and it was this light green color. I would recommend making them match up. So I'm going to look at the top and see that I'm on the third row, and I'm going to click over here and add the green color a little bit more there. So when they fold over and meet, they will be the same color. I'm also going to do it up here at the top on row 14 because I want those to be a little bit longer. And I'm happy with that. So I've made it where this alternates and tells you which direction you need to be going. If you look at the top, as I go up each row, you can see that the arrow on the right switches direction. So it tells you which way to go. So the very first row that we've already done actually, we're on the second one, we went this direction. And so this is how the graph works. You go this direction, you do all those, then you go up, and then remember we turn the work. So now we're working this direction. And once we finish this row, we're going to go up there, and then we're going to switch directions, and we're going to go this way. So yeah, pay attention to that arrow at the top. We just did this last stitch, and then we chained 3. And that chain 3 that we did brought us to this next row, and it also counted as this first stitch. So we need 6 total dark green stitches, but we just did the first one when we chained 3. So we got that one covered, so now we just need to do 5 additional stitches. So we're going to do 5 more stitches. Remember, we skip this first hole, go into this one. So that's our second. We're going up to 6. Third. Fourth. 5. And then for our 6th stitch, because remember we're including this as our first one, we're going to do a little bit different of a stitch. So we're going to do like normal where you yarn over, do that, and you're going to pull through the first 2 loops just like normal, but instead of pulling through and going through those last 2 loops, you're going to pull through with the new color. Here I'm taking this lighter green color, putting it on my hook like that, and then pulling through those 2 loops. You can kind of tighten this dark green, just pull everything tighter, then just hold those 2 loops right there behind, and then you're going to yarn over with this lighter green now, and you're just going to work double crochets like normal, and we're working over these 2 strands that we're holding behind. So this tail from the light green, and then this dark green that we were using earlier, because we still need to alternate back and forth between the light green and the dark green by looking at the graph. So we just did these 6 dark green stitches, and now I have to do these light green stitches, which I'm going to count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 light green stitches. Still holding this back there. I'm going to crochet over them, and remember I need to do 11, so I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and at this point I'm not really working over the tail anymore because it's no longer poking out. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then on the 11th, we're changing back over to the dark green. So I'm gonna yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then for the second 2 loops, I'm gonna push this light green to the back, pick up this dark green, and then pull through. And now I'm gonna work with the dark green. So this is what it's looking like right now with the color changes. So I'm gonna look back at my graph and count how many dark green I need to do now. I'm gonna do these 15 dark green stitches, and then I think you get the point. So I'm gonna go ahead and do these color changes over here, and then I'll get back to you when I get to the end of this row. Well, I'm nearing the end of this row. For my graph, I had to do 5 of the dark green. So I've done 2, 3, 4, and then remember the last stitch is into the 3rd chain right there. So insert your hook. It's always kind of hard. And then pull through 2 loops. But now, because the next row on the graph is this color, fully this color, I'm going to change color by pulling through the last 2 loops with the new color, and then I'm gonna chain 3 with that new color. And then we are working on the next row. So at this point, I like to actually pull this yarn up and just work it in the back a little bit more, just so it's a little bit more secure before I cut it. And this row is fully light green, so I'm not gonna actually use the dark green, but I'm just crocheting over it before cutting it, so it's a little bit more secure. Once I've crocheted a good bit over this dark green strand, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the dark green because we don't need it for a while. So I'm just gonna chop it and then kind of pull this, so now you can see the end is just tucked in. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and do all of the plain light green rows because there's no color changes. It's pretty straightforward, and I will get back to you when that's done. Okay, so I'm nearing the end of my 5th row of the light green. I have 1 more stitch left, and for the next row, we are going to be starting with dark green. So on this last stitch that I do, I need to change colors. So I'll go through those loops and then grab the next color, put it on the hook, pull through those last 2 loops, chain up 2. It's chain 3. Please just disregard the whole chain 2 thing that I just said because that is incorrect. I don't know what happened. Turn our work, and then the next row for me is going right to left. So I'm going to look at my graph, starting at the right side of the graph, and I'm going to hold this tail and this light green piece of yarn in the back, and I'm going to crochet over it. So we go into this stitch, we skip the first one, do a double crochet, and I need 13 of the dark green. So right now we have 2 because we count the chain 3 as our first stitch. So this is my 13th. So instead of going through with the dark green on the last 2 loops, I'm going to change to the light green. So I'm going to pull through with the light green and then do those stitches. So I'm going to be doing the rest of the rows off camera because I think I've showed enough of how to do color changes and stuff. So if you do have any problems with it, I would recommend rewatching certain parts. Okay, there we go. Done. At this point, I'm gonna chain 1, and then we are going to connect it like that. So it's a tube. So what you're gonna do is figure out which side is your good side. This side has like pieces of yarn sticking out from when I was adding new colors. So this is my bad side, this is my good side. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold it good sides in. So now my bad side is on the outside. So we're gonna be slip stitching all along here, but as you can see, my yarn currently is on this side. It needs to be on this side so I can actually work with it. So I'm just gonna loosen the yarn a little bit, remove my hook, and then insert it over here, and then pull the yarn this way, and then you're good to go. At this point, I'm going to insert my hook. So at this point, I'm going to insert my hook right there into that little loop, and I'm going to find the corresponding loop on this side. Honestly, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, I think if you just make sure that the sides are lined up with one another, and it's not like squishing that way or super long or anything, or one of them is like short like that, as long as they're lined up, you should be okay. And at this point, you'll just keep doing that. Find like a loop on this side, and then find the loop on this side, and then just loosely slip stitch them. I do find that you kind of want to be loose with it, because if you don't, it will kind of bunch up like that, and then this side will be like that, and then this side will be flat. Once you're at the end, you're going to chain up one, and then you can cut your yarn, and then just pull the yarn through, and now you can flip your tube right side out. You can kind of see the blue where we did the slip stitch all the way down. If you did really not like that, you could just do blue right here to slip stitch that together, then change it to that green and like use that color to slip stitch, but that's a lot of work and I'm not going to do that. At this point, it's time to do the sleeves and like the back of the top. For the sleeve, you're going to start with your blue yarn and you're going to make a slip knot. And now you're going to chain enough to go around your shoulder. But this is what you want it to look like. You want it to just start in the armpit and then go over and around your shoulder. For me, this was 35 chains. I wanted to quickly say that in hindsight, I probably would have done 2 to 3 more chains, just to allow like a little bit more room in the sleeves. Once you have the right number of chains, you're gonna slip stitch into the very first stitch that we did. So just insert your hook into that first stitch, pull your yarn through that loop, and then this one as well. Now you're gonna chain 4. So what we're gonna do here is wrap our yarn around our hook and then skip 1 stitch and go into the second stitch. So this is the next stitch that we're skipping, and then we're going to this one. And then do a double crochet like normal, and then chain 1, and then skip 1 stitch, go into the next, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, go into the next, chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next one, double crochet, chain 1, and you're going to do this all the way around, where you skip a stitch, do a double crochet, and then chain 1. Once you get to the end, you might not have the perfect number of stitches left, but I say just kind of go in the middle. Okay. And then this time you're going to chain 2 when it's your very last one before you get back to where you started. And then you're going to slip stitch into this hole right here. So insert your hook into the hole, grab your yarn, and pull it through both. And now you're going to chain 4. And then wrap your yarn, go into this next hole, do a double crochet, chain 1, go into the next hole, do a double crochet, chain one, next one, double crochet, chain one, and you do this all the way around. At this point, I would recommend just stopping and putting this around your shoulder like we did earlier and make sure that it fits correctly. Once again, coming on here to say that you want it to be slightly loose, not like falling off, but not tight. And if it does, then you are literally just going to be doing this the entire way down. Double crochet, chain one, all the way around. This is where we just started. I'm just going right in there. I'm not meeting back or anything. You just continue on like normal, and then it'll just turn into kind of a spiral. You're going to want to try on the sleeve as you're making it just to see how long you need to make it. I ended up going like right at my wrist, maybe a little bit past it, but you can do whatever. So instead of doing like chain one and then double crochet in here, I'm going to chain two and then do a slip stitch into there. And that's what it looks like. Chain one and then cut your yarn, then pull it up, and then you're done. And now you're just going to do the exact same thing for the other sleeve. So I've done both sleeves, and now we have to make something that goes across the back of the top to pull the sleeves together, because if you were to just like attach the sleeves like this, they would just fall down and they won't stay up. You're going to take your blue yarn, make a slip knot, and this color is actually different because I ran out of this one. I'm going to chain 9. Basically, you want to chain an odd number. And you want it to be about this proportion of the width of your sleeve. Hold this last chain and then chain 5. Now go into that last chain, which would be the 6th chain from your hook, do a double crochet, chain 1, skip this next stitch, go into the next one, chain 1, skip this stitch, double crochet, chain 1, skip that stitch, double crochet, chain 1, skip that stitch, double crochet, and then you're going to chain 4, then flip, and then now you just go into the chain 1 space with double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, I'm going to do this until I get about this length, and I'll get back to you. This is the length I ended up going with. As you can see, it's pretty stretchy, so that's why I do it a little less than the width of the top. It's me again, just popping in here to say that I probably should have done like 3, maybe even 4 rows less, because it ended up stretching a lot more. And at this point, we are ready to connect everything. I'm so sorry that this is actually the worst tutorial you'll ever see, but right after this, I tried slip stitching the back panel to the sleeve, but that ended up being too tight. So I ended up sewing the back panel to the sleeve, and that's what this next clip is going to be. So it's from the future, but just follow the instructions and sew it. You should sew these together instead of slip stitching, because I slip stitched this one and wasn't able to get my arm through it because it was just too tight. But sewing it was fine. So I'm gonna sew this to this instead of slip stitching. I'm going to thread the yarn through my needle, and then I'm just going to sew them together. And insert your hook into this loop right here, and then the corresponding loop right here. And then just pull, and then just pull, and then just pull. It's kind of hard, okay. And then do the same thing, and that's how you're gonna do it. You just find the inner loop here and the inner loop there. When you're sewing, you kind of want to mimic how it looks on this side, so just use that as a reference. But we're just going to use kind of the same technique that we did when sewing this together. Now that that's connected, I'm just gonna at this point, you need to try the top on and see how far towards the front you need to sew the sleeve down. And this is where I ended up needing to do it. And once I get to the pin, I'm going to try this on to make sure that it fits. I went ahead and attached the other arm the same way that I did the first one, and I tried it on again, which you need to do as well. For me, mine was still a little bit big, so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch around the neckline to make it A, tighter, and B, like fill in these gaps so it doesn't want to fall off your shoulders. When I've reached the end, I will slip stitch into that very first stitch I made and then chain one, and now I'm gonna do another row of single crochets. Actually, what you should do right now is you should try this on, see how it's fitting, make sure you didn't do it too tight, but see if you need to keep going, because if it's still too loose, then you can just keep making single crochet rounds until it fits. And I ended up on my last row, I ended up with 73 single crochets all the way around. And this is how it looks. It is pretty like open, but it doesn't fall off. So this is how mine looks. When you reach the end, chain 1, turn your work, and now just continue doing single crochets in all of the loops. Make sure for the last stitch you get both loops on your hook. Then chain 1, turn, and then repeat. You want to do 13 rows of single crochets, so pause and do that and then come back. So we're going to work a decrease into the first 2 and last 2 stitches. So insert your hook, pull yarn through, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull a yarn through, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And then just do single crochets. On this row, we're going to do the same thing, where you insert your hook in the first 2, pull through all 3, and then just do 1 regular single crochet, and then these to the same decrease, chain 1. At this point, you're going to work a decrease through these 3 stitches. So insert your hook, insert your hook, insert your hook, so you have 4 loops on the hook, and then pull through all 4, like that. Now take your black yarn, and you'll only need about that much. Put your yarn through the needle, and then pull it through and leave about that much of a tail. Then I'm poking my yarn through the other side for the other eye, trying to make it as symmetrical as possible. I'm going to do the same thing. So just poke it through, pull the yarn. That's a little bit low. You see how that's kind of too low, so I'm going to redo that. I want it to be like right there. Go up a little bit, and then go over the same area. Then I'll just kind of pull the eyes up a little bit so they're not too tight. Now I'm just gonna loosely tie these 2 ends together so it is a little more secure. You don't want to pull too tight because it'll pull these to the back. But you're gonna lay your top out flat and figure out where you want to put the ghost. I'm gonna put it about there. You might want to try the top on and see what'll look the best, but I'm doing right here. Thread your needle. Now that it's sewn on, you just need to weave in all of your ends and you're done. If you had any questions or had a hard time following a certain part of the video, definitely let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to help. Subscribe if you want to see more crochet videos from me. I'm gonna go. Hope you guys have a good day. Bye!